Dark Knight Returns. Got a new one. Sin City 300.
So Robert, I have a question for you. It used to be when Hollywood decided to make a movie out of a comic book, they would start by saying, how do we fix this?
How do we adapt it? How do we adapt it?
I think they thought it was broken too, in some ways. Like they would lose a lot of things that made it what it was.
Well, I think people would think that, there are two different mediums, comics, and then there were movies, and that they were completely different. So you would have to adapt it into a movie. And when I would see the work, especially Frank Miller, where he's the writer and the creator of the visuals, I saw that he was doing the most groundbreaking, original, breathtaking visual storytelling that I had seen in any movie. And I couldn't understand why you couldn't just translate that to the screen rather than try and take that book and turn it into a movie. Why not take movies and turn it into Frank's work? So that's what the whole Sin City was about. It was actually 10 years ago, almost to the day, that we were here to show the first footage about 8 months before it came out, and you all were the first people to see it and support it and say, wow, that's really different. Just a question, who was here 10 years ago to see that original? That was, remember, it changed. It was a new way to look at cinema, and a way to look at technology, and a way to look at comic books and graphic novels. And I think that's why things kind of changed. I think for the better phrases that.
Yeah, I think that the comic book movies that have been coming out have been getting better because they've been closer to the source material. It's one thing to sit down at a drawing board and create something out of whole cloth and write it and have it be completely your vision and then be willing to test it on a relatively small market. And a completely different thing to take some existing character and throw him into a boardroom full of a bunch of people who think the comic books are crap and turn out something that really proves they can be.
That's exciting. Frank, as a comic book reader, since I was reading, it's been fascinating to watch the journey of your art and your body of work. It seems to me in a way you're almost like on a Picasso-like journey, trying to deconstruct the action on the page. Or I hope you agree, or else I'm going to look really stupid. Do you agree? You don't?
Well, actually, the way I started Sin City was a first in my career, because for one thing, I'd always wanted to do crime stories, and when I first came into comics, they would only publish stories about guys with types, so I had to learn how to draw them. And I worked in as many crime elements as I could. But then I because of my work on Batman and other projects, I was invited to become a screenwriter. And I was not happy with the process at all. There was too many bosses. Being a screenwriter is, a screenplay is kind of like a fire hydrant with a row of dogs going all the way around the block, lining up for it. So I moved away and sat down and decided to create the comic books that could not be adapted to the movies. And it was Sin City.
The first thing I did was go up to Frank and say, hey, can I turn this into a movie? It's really cool.
Yeah, this crazy text that shows up and shows me how to do it.
That's fantastic. All right, well, we want to bring out, we're going to go now to watch the...
So a little bit about what I'm going to show. What's great about, who here is familiar with this story, Just Another Saturday Night? It's the Sin City short story. We start the movie with that as an introduction to Marv. And if you know the book, there's just some really bold visual storytelling going on. And I wish we could show you this in 3D. It's still 3D, still being worked on. But it's stunning in 3D because you really get immersed into what Frank did. But the visual language is there. So I'm going to show you, like we did 10 years ago, I'm going to show you the opening, part of the opening scene. I won't show you all the opening scene. We'll stop it at a certain point. But just to give you a sense of, seeing Mark back and seeing a little bit of this and while the show's on, we'll bring some of the actors up.
You guys are gonna like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, no videotaping recording. At this point, all hell breaks loose, and that's what happens. I'm gonna bring out some of the cast. Woo! The amazing Gail, played by Rosario Dawson. Dwight McCarthy from Dame to Kill For, played by Josh Brolin. Nancy Callahan, Jessica Alba.
Oh, she's so cute.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Hall H. Hall H says hello. Jessica, I'll start with you if it's okay. Returning to this world and seeing those visuals on the screen, and it's a very distinctive, very singular universe. That must be pretty satisfying for you to have a return ticket.
Yeah, I feel like the luckiest girl in Hollywood.
Great, and then your character Nancy has a lot in this movie, and there's I don't want to say too much about it, but it takes her some places that if people haven't read the book, they're going to be a little surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's an original story that Frank and Robert developed. I sort of got to participate in that as well over the last decade. Nancy was so sweet. She was sort of a victim in the first one, so I think in this one people will be pleasantly surprised to see her turn into a warrior.
And Josh, welcome. How are you, sir?
Goonies never say
I wanted to play
die.
Nancy, but it didn't work out. Sorry.
The wardrobe tryout, that's what killed you.
It was the wardrobe.
What's for you coming into this, and we were talking about how you've gone to some pretty dark places in movies.
Thank you.
Some nice violence. What was it about Frank Miller's work and Robert's work and the Sin City universe that really connected with you?
Well, I mean, you don't necessarily know it connects with you until you're into it. First of all, it's really nice to be asked to be a part of this. Second of all, I've known Robert for 21 years, so we've worked together, we knew each other, and we enjoyed each other's company at work. And then thirdly, and most important, you're dealing with two total iconoclasts, guys who really don't beat to anybody's drum. Like what Frank said, a screenplay is a hydrant with a bunch of dogs waiting to piss on it. That's Frank Miller for you. Unapologetically himself. And then to be involved with somebody like that is wonderful, because you don't really, Robert doesn't take what Frank does and makes it really his own, even though he does in a way. You really have to dive into what he's created. And I think that's what differentiates this from a lot of other adaptations. And that's really nice to be involved in something that original.
That's fantastic. And then Rosario, as far as the sense of place in Sin City and the districts within it, it's a real geography, a landscape, and it makes the characters even more iconic, archetypal than they are.
I mean, you have these neighborhoods that are segmented and people who are kind of cut off from each other, and it's amazing when you can kind of go through and you're like, okay, so here you're in the projects, here you're in Sin City, here you're this, and it kind of helps you to see what type of people gravitate towards one place or the other, and things always happen when you get a little lost, when you get off the beaten path and you go someplace different, and you encounter different people, and I think that geography and going around it is helpful to kind of really feel the essence of Sin City being a real place. You're not just there and it's Never Land or something like that. Like, you actually feel like maybe it's around the corner and it's down that dark alley, and maybe I'll actually meet these people. It gives it a sense, even as outrageous and as full on and over the, sort of over the threshold of anything else you've ever experienced before, you still do feel like there's an essence of it. Like, this could be real. These people could be my neighbors.
And for all three of you, it feels too like this could, it's anachronistic in a way that the dialogue is of another time in a way. It speaks to a different type of filmmaking, a different type of crime, stories and things. That must be kind of fun. So you don't get to probably do that now in Hollywood these days.
It's how Robert talks all the time. Literally. You can't really naturalize that kind of dialogue. You have to become its cadence, which is great. Because the minute, usually in movies you're trying to naturalize things and make it really seem seamless, and you can't. And then, so when you're doing it, you don't know if it's going to turn out okay, and then you see it. And if you don't do it properly, Robert will come up and be like, no, just do it like this. Oh my God.
Keep your voice down like this.
That's actually the best to have, like, Frank come up and be like, this is actually how I always envisioned it, or how I wrote this line, or this is the texture to it, to be able to have you there and have you there, and it be just as much as we feel like it's cool and it's amazing to be a part of. It was great to see how giddy the both of you would get. Like, I remember when we first walked out 10 years ago in the outfits, like, Frank's face was like, I drew you in the dark by myself a very long time ago, and here you are walking out to say hello to me. This is crazy. And then Robert coming up and going, here you are again. And you are Gail. I recognize you as Gail, but you're saying different things. You're wearing something different. Like, what is happening here? This is just so, it becomes so alive. And I think that's what that language does as well. It makes it very alive. It makes it very kind of like this place, this really real space. And I think it gives it a class and an energy that otherwise, if we were trying to modernize it or something, it would just get lost. It would become just, it would actually soften it.
Metropolis is not.
Not Metropolis.
No, it's not.
I think that was the fun about it, was we'd go, and so I'd be operating the camera a lot of times, I'd be right there with the actor, we'd do a performance that we thought was it, but we really want to get Frank's sign-off, so we'd run back very excited to see what his reaction is. And we knew we had it if we go back there, and he had this huge grin on his face. Frank doesn't grin very often, so we had a big grin on his face. You knew you nailed it. That was the most exciting thing, because he's dreamt it so long ago, never expecting to see it acted and performed, and it gives you goosebumps, when you hear a very iconic line like Dwight saying, never let the monster out, or something like that. It's something he'd only wrote and drew, never thought he would hear it and see it come to life in such a great way. That was always the goal, was make Frank, really happy with seeing this come to life in the right way.
And you've always championed keeping the film franchise rooted and tethered to that heritage, that legacy, and making sure that Frank's name is in the title and things like that. And that comes from your fan affection for Wars.
I love the work. I knew what a singular work it was. I wanted it to be Frank Miller's Sin City. I actually made that the title so that when you looked it up, it would have his name first, because it was such an amazing work. I really wanted to perform more as a facilitator than a director, as far as making sure that this was very true to the source material. It was brilliant work, and Hollywood didn't get it back then. The Directors Guild didn't get it when I tried to explain that he was already a storyteller. He was just using a pen instead of a camera. But he was doing the most bold, breathtaking visual storytelling, and we tried to emulate that with a film.
It was an IMAX pen, because it's got a big vision.
I have to say, it was incredible. Yeah, I have to say, it was the first time when I remember showing up on set, and to the level that you were taking it to immortalize this work, and using the comic as a storyboard, down to the angle, the level of where the camera would be, to the actual perspective, which is unusual, but that would be true to exactly what your vision of was, where you would actually go, okay, kind of go a little bit more to the right, raise your arm this way, because he had sketches of the characters put into the monitor, so he could actually position you in the exact position that Frank had drawn it. That level, it brought everyone up to the same sort of level of excitement, and just going, wow, this has never been done before, this is amazing.
It's awesome. And as you say, positions, it reminds me of Ray Liotta's in this movie. And as is Christopher Lloyd. But I was thinking of Ray's scene where he's in we see a lot of Ray.
Oh, when you see that, the opening of Dame to Kill For, the way it's drawn, it was so incredibly drawn. We really try to emulate the lighting, the framing, and if you're familiar with the book, I think we really nail it with the casting of Ray and everybody who showed up. There's a huge cast. I mean, Stacy Keach, Chris Maloney, Jerry Piven, Christopher Lloyd. People bring other characters to life besides these people up here, and you're going to be really surprised and thrilled. Eva Green, who does an incredible job as the Dame, incredible job as the Dame. I mean, she brings that super, to life and in 3D and will blow you away. We couldn't have been, it's taken a long time to get to the screen, but I don't think any other time would have been the right time like now. This cast would not have been there. We started actually shooting before we even had the full cast. The first person we shot was Jessica, and she came in so prepared, so really set the bar of what the performances were going to be like. I think that's what I was most surprised by, was how, even though everyone was great in the first film, it really was a very early for green screen. People didn't really know what green screen was back then. Digital photography was very new back then. So people knew what they were doing this time. They'd already seen the film, they already knew what this world was going to be. The performances are 10 times better, or 100 times better than the first film, because everyone knew what they were doing. And it started with Jessica, and then Vicky, and then Josh became available, he dropped in. We were casting as we were shooting, so we got that amazing cast just on faith that they would show up and their schedules would work out. And it caused some pretty funny things, like when Josh showed up, his schedule became open. He was our first choice for Dwight, and he wasn't available when we started shooting, but by the time we got to his section, he was available. But with a catch, he showed up, and he goes, "Where's Mickey? Aren't all my scenes with Mickey?" And he goes, "Oh, we shot him last month." I go, "How does that work?" He carries me around, he's driving me around, we're drinking together. I go, "Yeah, I know, it's the green screen, I'm gonna do it here." And they never met. He's like, "I've been wanting to work with Mickey for 20 years, and now I'm working with him and he's not here." Kind of be there, there's a monitor, you'll get to see what he does. What was that like? It was really kind of cool, because you kind of could watch a scene and go, "Wow, Mickey's really funny in this. I can't do that at all, I gotta go the other way." And you balance the performances out. It was really pretty cool. You know where I got that from? I worked with Ricardo Montalban, and he told me I told him how amazing he was in Wrath of God, and he goes, "I did that all by myself." He said, I was acting, Will Shatner wasn't there yet. I had to perform completely, and then he watched my footage later and did his performance. And at the premiere he said, "Thank you for your performance," because I got to watch it, and then I acted against that. He goes, "Well, I didn't have anything." So you got to do that, watching Mickey, and then performing against it as if he was there. What was that like?
From that moment on, I only do movies by myself now. It works. I mean, we were talking, Rosario and I were talking about this before. You talk, being an actor or whatever that is, that you want to connect with the person that you're acting with and how much that means and all that. And Robert Rodriguez just blew that to smithereens, because when we watch the movie, you don't know how the movie, especially when you do green screen, you don't know how the movie's going to turn out. So it's like, well, how does it feel? Well, it feels totally alien. It feels totally foreign. And you're really entrusting the director and the directors in this instance to create something wonderful. So I'm on a cliff with the skyline, amazing skyline, and city lights in the background, and really I'm on a green floor with the car next to me, and I don't even know. I mean, I just kind of gave up. It was a big blackout for me. But then when you watch the movie, you go, "My God!" I mean, this is, you really get to experience the movie as if you've never read the script. It's such an original, bizarre, alien experience that you create.
As you say that, it sounds almost like a black box theater. I mean, it sounds like a sort of a classic actor's challenge.
It really is, and you have to be more focused. I mean, that's the thing. Is how is it? You have to lend yourself way more to your imagination than you normally would, which puts you further into somebody like Frank Miller's mind. You can't. Frank Miller sucks you into it. You can't make it come to you. You have to lend yourself to it, otherwise it doesn't work out.
Frank, you've had so much success in comic books. It's hard to even begin to sum it up, but writing at least the two greatest Batman stories, Batman Year One and The Dark Knight Returns. It's nice to see they get movie titles right. The Dark Knight, that's good. But it's with Sin City, this isn't Daredevil, which was the great Daredevil run you did, creating Electra and all that. But these are characters that sprung from you. Does that make them especially different in a way to you? Do you feel more protective of them than, say, Bruce Wayne?
I feel very protective about every character I've worked on, but creating characters out of whole cloth is a whole different experience. And when I was working on Sin City, I was after a particular, when I was first drawing, I was after a particular tone and a particular feeling. I knew I wanted that antiquated way of talking, within movie referred to as dames and such. And I had, no intention of seeing it on the big screen. What I think really emerged in the making of the second movie was that the whole world who saw it actually got used to the world of Sin City, accepted it for what it was, and so everybody from the audience to the cast came in that much more comfortable with the kind of dialogue that I've written, so when Jessica showed up, she was already, I went over to say hi to her, and she barely said hello to me because she was already in character and ready to do a graveyard scene. When Rosario showed up, she so owned the character that I had almost nothing to say, except thank you and try on the executioner mask.
Rosario was so funny when she showed up. She was shooting another movie, and so in the first film she came in and she was like, I'll do anything you need. She shaved her head into a mohawk to look like the character. This one, they said ahead of time, she can't do anything really radical with her hair because she's filming another movie. So we went, oh, okay. So we went in and we tied it up. We tried to make it look like the thing, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, audience isn't going to understand that that's why she can't do it. They're going to probably think she didn't go all the way, and she does. Just Rosario goes all the way with her performance.
Yeah.
The next morning she showed up on set with her head shaved like that herself. They're like haphazardly done. I said, what did you do to your hair? She goes, I was walking around my hotel room last night and thought, I don't want people to think I didn't bring it this time. I said, okay, well, we'll try and fix it. It's a little But I love that you thought of that without me mentioning it. I don't want them to think I didn't bring it. And Jessica, what was that like? You came a completely different person when you showed up, and you set the bar. You prepared, you created choreography, you came in, and you were someone else. And I pulled you aside a few times because Mickey Rourke gave you props, and I said, Mickey Rourke never gives props. He just said how amazing you are. Bruce Willis gave you major props. There was something going on this time. What was it about this time? Because I didn't get to ask you that. It stunned us all, and it set the bar for all the performances that came. What was this like this time around? What were you thinking?
Gosh. Well, I had...
You wouldn't know it by that big smile. She was not smiling when she showed up on set. She showed up so in character, we thought she hated us.
Yeah, my first thought when I said hello to Jessica was, I haven't seen her in 8 years. How did I piss her off?
I don't know. I just really kind of connected with the dark side of Nancy, and it was hard to detach from that until the movie was over.
Yeah.
And really, the whole time I was in Austin, I stayed connected to that spirit. I don't know what else to say.
Nothing would break it. We'd make jokes, she wouldn't laugh. Nothing helped. I thought,
but I thank you guys so much.
There.
And I felt like I was also just more mature. The first one, I was in my early 20s. I was just trying to figure it out. I was so intimidated just being in your world. I mean, in Austin, it's kind of an intimidating world if you don't know how sweet and warm and awesome you are. And Frank, kind of intimidating Frank.
Oh my God.
You may not say
surprised.
And so I was like, I was like just trying to figure it out. But the second time, I felt comfortable. I felt like a woman. I felt comfortable in my own skin, and I wanted to kick ass.
It's one of the great transformations in this movie, in a series of films. It starts with this innocent little girl in the first film, and when you see what she becomes by the end of this, it's pretty breathtaking. So you're in for a surprise.
I don't know this, so forgive me if, did you get to do a lot with Power's booth on the set? Is this performance of this movie? I think that is going to...
He is one scary mofo.
He is. He makes me nervous. Really.
So even, I watched the movie with him, and it's hard to even look at him. And I know he's like, I have a company, and he uses my company's diapers on his grandkid and all this, and I wanted to run away. He's so intimidating. He's really good at this. And Eva Green, I mean, she is one scary woman. She is capable of everything.
Robert, when did you talk a little bit about some of the cast members that are already here in your performances?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, he's so
That was the most exciting part was we knew after the first film, when we were making the first film, we knew we'd do David the Kill 4 next because that was the book we skipped when we were adapting the other stories. It was just too long of a book to try and squeeze it into the first film. And Frank right away said, that would be better as a sequel. It would answer some of the questions of, some of these characters if we gave that its due. And we wanted to surround it with some other stories, like you saw part of Just Another Saturday Night, but then thought, let's give the audience something they can't just go to the comic book store, buy a book, and know what's going to happen already. Let's surprise them with some new stories. And I think that was the most exciting, was being part of Frank's writing process. He would start telling me about this character named Johnny, and I would put on my tape recorder and slide it over and be like listening, and that's how it started to be written out. And he'd be drawing. Another great thrill, seeing Frank Miller draw original storyboards on the set because we don't have a graphic novel to go with those stories. So all those shots had to be created, and he would draw them sometimes ahead of time, sometimes right on the set. And it was just a thrill, and getting to work with someone like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and create this character with Frank and build up a new story that feels like it would fit right in with all the other stories. That was exciting.
There's one moment I have to mention about drawing the storyboards. And that's that there was a shot of Jessica that I had drawn where she was, I won't get it anyway, but she was in an action pose. And I drew the way I draw. I mean, it's not what we call realistic, not the real world. And I looked over at her on stage, and she was in exactly the pose that I drew. And it was an impossible pose. and I said, what are you doing? How are you getting like that? She said, that's what we drew. And that was the end of the conversation.
We're all there to fulfill your vision, Frank.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is technology. When you were talking about, it's kind of interesting that you wear so many different hats, first of all, and you do so many things. When you were pushing your phone over to record.
Oh yeah.
You also tell me.
Oh yeah. Well, the technology changed a lot in the last 10 years. I mean, that was really early days in digital. I mean, I had done I think the first digital 3D movie just before I did Sin City. It was called Spike is 3D, and it was the cameras were like this big. This time we had Jim Cameron and Space's latest cameras right off the factory line. They were like Ferraris. I mean, they didn't slow us down at all. We were able to shoot very, very fast to keep actors in the mode. And the technology was really great. Another thing technologically that wasn't there 10 years ago was these smartphones. I got to write the score again. I didn't think I would get it. One of the favorite things about the movie is Sin City was the score. This whole film noir score. You never get to write music like that. And I was really afraid. I had a lot going on this year. I didn't think I'd have the time to sit at my music machine and make music. But these things are a godsend. I'll tell you how most of the music was written. I'd be like asleep in bed, and I would turn on just the built-in app that has a recorder, and I would hum in, half asleep. I'd think of like a scene of music, while we're filming, it'd be like, okay, on top of that,
Robert, you're not well.
Go back to sleep. The next day I'd go to my music station, play it back, and go, what the hell is that? And I'd listen to it, and I would work it out on the keyboard, and that would be the score. 80% of the score was written on the phone first, and then translate. And I would bring it to set the next day. Jessica would be acting to it, say, can you play that score again? And it was really cool just how far technology is able to capture an idea, and can help facilitate those things.
So you're really fun in the score.
That was funny.
The contradiction in that is that because you do so many things alone, it allows you to do an almost ultimate collaboration. And because you have so much technology to apply, you can get back to doing things like doing a sketch on a set. For the scene, I mean, it's interesting to get closer while getting further away, using technology to get more effect. It's intriguing.
Well, from an artist's point of view, I mean, I tend to move pretty fast on a set. Frank, even more impatient. We'd be filming, I'd be moving really quick, and he would be, if there was any lull, he'd go, shoot, damn it! Shoot, damn it! Because he's an artist too. You take a piece of paper, you grab a pen, and in 10 minutes you have something that didn't exist before. There's an immediacy to creating that quickly. That movies are slower than that. And it makes you quite impatient. So that's why I think we tend to move very fast, because we know creation doesn't have to be a long process.
Well, it works both ways, because there are also times when I would come up with a shot and I would just put down maybe 6 lines, just beginning the drawing. And then I'd get to work on finishing the drawing. And I'd look at the monitor and he'd already shot it.
I can tell very clearly what you're framing by your drawings are so distinct. I guess that's going to be a head, that's a shoulders, it's just a low angle. We have to keep moving, so I set it up. It was very fun, very fast.
So there's a big box of drawings that need to be on eBay here.
It's a bunch of great drawings.
Okay, we're going to take some questions from the audience now, I think. If you have any questions, please step to the microphone and remember the question ends in a question mark. No words, proposals, mentions.
Hi, Mr. Miller, it's an honor, thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering, your movies 300 and Sin City, thanks to Mr. Rodriguez and Snyder, these are the greatest translations of comic books to movies, like direct translation, and it's amazing. Do you demand that, Mr. Miller, or did you just get lucky?
It's a very good question. Because it was never in question. Robert started intending to translate Sin City, and Zach showed an immediate understanding of what 300 was about, and the adjustments he made were quite small. So it's never really been an issue. Now I'd be a real prick.
I'll clarify one thing. I mean, one thing for sure I can tell you, I went and I showed Frank a test of Sin City, what I was going to do, what I had planned to do it, and then he would come along. He controlled the rights to Sin City. I know for a fact he would not have done the movie had I not done it that way, because when I first even proposed, doing it, he said, that sounds really exciting, but then we have to write a script, and we submit it to a studio, and they're going to give us no. And if he was asked to go through the traditional filmmaking process, even if they promised a lot of freedom, he wouldn't have done it. It was his baby. Why go do that? And so I think that, in a way, he didn't demand it, but he certainly would not have gone on that journey if it was going to be the same song and dance that he'd been through before. He wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
No matter how much they paid him.
How's it going?
Hi Jeff, Aaron Kai is my name.
Oh, yeah.
Guys really rock. Robert, I just want to say it was really cool meeting you the other night at the Sin City Hot Rock Party. And Frank, Mr. Miller, and Robert, your vision, Frank with your graphic novel, and Robert with your expertise and the cast, inspired me to hand paint this jacket back in 2008. The movie I got Rosario, I had through here. Wait.
Great work.
Oh, wow, nice, wow.
There we go. And I have the late Michael Dwight Duncan and Ricky Murphy.
Very nice, very nice.
And hand painted.
Excellent.
Wow.
Do you have awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You have a question? What was the question?
Yeah, my question is to Brian and Mr. Miller. I recently saw the documentary to Central Park 5, and one of the sergeants in that documentary was named John Hardigan, and he was a detective, and he was tall and had that look like one of your characters. I was wondering, you being from New York like myself, that was one inspiration of your characters for the graphic novel?
No, actually, I named Cardigan after a childhood friend of my brother's. So it's a complete coincidence.
And your brother's here, right? That's nice.
Yeah, but it was not the only brother. I have lots of brothers. Almost as many as he has kids.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, I just want to say that it's a real honor to be in front of all of you guys, Frank and Robert and Rosario and Josh Cole and Jessica Allen. Amazing, thank you guys. My question was for the actors though, dealing with a movie like this, when you guys have to deal with green screens a lot, what did you guys have to do to work in character development before the film so you can get the characters just right and stay in that character?
So distracted by the America's Most Wanted.
I know, sorry.
I think it's tough. I worked with an acting coach, and before I went, and then I worked with a choreographer, and I had to get into the head of Nancy. I mean, I'm nothing like this girl, so I really had to connect with that psychotic, dark side. It was really fun, but it was a lot of work prior to going. For me, at least. Josh, what's up?
No, I feel like a total fraud right now. I showed up and said the lines.
I feel like I need a therapist.
I know.
Because I went and I was like, that was awesome. This was like.
I lived with Frank for 3 years
shaded
before I
and
started
came
this
out.
film. I lived with Frank for 3 years. No, it's a weird thing when you show up at a green screen and you know you've heard this, at least for me who hadn't done it. You heard the stories about the original Sin City and what was the song that Mickey would play? That was
Mickey would play one song. It was called "Hurt." Hurt Johnny
Johnny
Cash.
Cash.
All of the first movie. That's all he would put on to get in the mode.
You know, and we all want to be Mickey and we want to have a song. You know, mine was like Lady Gaga or something. But it's really strange when you first get into it. It's definitely a leap of faith, and then once you're in about 2 or 3 days, when you're really only working for a week. How long did we work for? Maybe a week.
We were there only about a week.
Only about a week.
I got to comment though that one thing that I found to be, at least to my limited experience, was amazing was that the lack of background actually seemed to increase the energy between the actors.
You can focus on each other.
One of the most memorable scenes in the first Sin City was between Jessica and Bruce Willis, where she was professing her love to him, and they were on a couch together. And the only thing there was the couch and them, and the intensity they brought was so great that we were able to shoot the entire thing with also. So I came out just the way it was drawn.
Another thing you can do to really help the actors into a process like this is really get them to trust their instinct. Sometimes they're acting with nobody else there. And you want them to get to a place where they just let go and trust the process. So in between takes, I would set up in the back of paint studio where I would teach them all to paint. Even if they don't think they know how to paint, they would paint. We'd go back and they would do a painting of their character, a portrait of their character that we would do together as a co-creating of a character, just so that they would free themselves up and see that if they just worked instinctually, they could create something using abilities they didn't know they had innately, and it would open them up. So in between takes, Josh would run back and paint this portrait, which we'll start showing around the time this movie is released. And everybody did. Rosario did 2 amazing ones, and of course they never painted before. Well, when they get to that place, and when they get to the set, and you're in front of a green screen, they've already been solving problems creatively, and they're told to perform and act, and they can feel like they can do anything because they've just been, immersed in that sort of creative environment. That's one thing we do to really kind of help just get people in this mode where they don't think about what they don't know, they think about what they do know.
Well, another example of what I was talking about was that there's a very intense scene between Clive Owen and Rosario, which takes place during driving rain in the movie. in it, he takes her gun away and she kisses him, but she doesn't just kiss him, she practically rips his head off. and I can only wonder if we would have gotten exactly that moment if there had been rain down on their faces and their eyes and confusing everybody on the set. Instead, the rain was completely digital. You know, it was a dry set.
Yeah. The use of color in the film was really fascinating.
The use of color in the film is done a lot in post. Once we think about, because we shoot the whole thing in color, we strip away all the color, and then slowly, very strategically, we start putting it back in. Places even where it wasn't in the books, just to see if it could highlight an idea or bring across, to do a little bit more of a layer of storytelling using the colors. So you'll see a use of color different in this movie, and more involved than even in the first one.
Hey there, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Jeff? My name is Michael Placato. I'm an actor, writer, and I'm also a huge fan of everybody on the panel. Robert, Frank, your movies are great. I love the Gotchi movies. It's like his movies, and your Daredevil run was just insane. It's my favorite. The stuff you've done with Sin City is so amazing. I'm wondering if maybe you guys are going to get together and maybe do another part of the
DC Comics.
It's catches snowing. I mean, as far as Sin City goes, Robert and I are already talking about Sin City 3. So you better show up for number 2 or else they won't pay for it.
Josh, there's still a chance to be Nancy. Still a chance.
Why are you trying to put me out of a job?
No, it's just joking. But believe me, I know.
Where is that dude? What is that? Can I have some?
My question is for Frank. First of all, I just want to say that you're one of my favorite writers and artists ever, and you've written some of the best draws for this. My question is that with Sin City segment to go for, if there's any plans for another Sin City graphic novel?
Inevitably. It's where I would want to go for my crime stories. You know, right now I'm at work on other things, but I've always got, you know, I've got a stack of stories that I want to do. So I would say yes, but what year, I'm not sure.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. My question first is for Mr. Rodriguez, because obviously between the first Sin City and now, we unfortunately lost Michael Clark Duncan, and of course we had you had to recast that role, and he owned the role of Manute so well that I just couldn't picture anyone else in that part. So I was just wondering what went into your consideration in recasting that role. And quick question to Mr. Miller, is there any chance we'll get to see Martha Washington on the big screen?
Nice.
I'll answer first. Martha Washington on the big screen, Martha Washington somewhere, I think it'll happen, but it's got to be done right, and like I said, this time I'm going to be a prick. It's going to be done my way.
It's a great question. Both great questions.
As far as Michael, you know what the common thread to both of those is that everybody wants to be very true to Frank's material. Michael Clark was very true to the material, came in and created a great part. After his passing, Dennis Hayward, who knew Michael, was friends with him, came in to take the torch and continue it. And since it's a prequel, it actually works really well, what Michael did. And Dennis is stunning in this movie. You're going to be very pleased with what he did. He really paid tribute to Michael and also created something unique and that's going to make you want more. I mean, he really is a standout. And it takes a real artist, a real gentleman to come in and do that for his friend and for this franchise, and also to stay true to what Frank created in the first place. You know, it takes sometimes many people to play one amazing part. We all kind of signed a book I go for, and wanted to give it out to a great question. That was a great question, so we're going to do this to you. From Sin City 10 years ago, before we ran out of time, we might still get your question. We showed a scene from the movie, and then we showed sort of a montage showing some of the drawings compared to the film. And this was actually Jessica's idea. One of the songs she had playing while she danced, one of her amazing dances on during the film, was a song's called Babes, but I think you'll know it was Killer Babes by Pete Blossoms. And we cut a montage to that. She said, why don't you cut a montage to that song? We tried it, and it worked amazing. So to get you a little more of the footage in a montage, we got a little clip for you. So check this out.
Sin City 2.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
The City with No
See you
Limits.
next time for part 3.
Guys, see you next time. Thanks, Hall H. You guys are the best.
Sin City, A Game to Kill For, with our co-directors Robert Rodriguez, Frank Miller, Rosario Dawson, Josh Brolin, and Jessica Alba, and our special guest moderator, Mr. Jeff Boucher.
Okay, it takes us now. You guys next time.
Don't use your pelvic sorcery on me.
It's not sorcery, I just have awesome dance moves. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome.
I admit, that's pretty awesome.
I know, right?